Speaker. I think it's important when we talk about education that we recognise its position within the wider national context, and some of my colleagues have already mentioned this and already talked about this. I want to focus my remarks on talking about the most vulnerable children who go to our schools. And I recently read a fascinating report, which is a couple of years old, by the Joseph Rowntree Foundation, which was written by LKMCO amongst other organisations. And they talked about a few very interesting aspects. One of them was around intergenerational disability and the likelihood of you being a child of SEND having had parents who also have special needs and disabilities. And it focused very clearly on the link between SEND and poverty. And some of the conclusions it came to were quite stark. It said that children with special needs and disabilities are more likely to experience poverty than other children. And I quote, that special education needs and disability can be a result of poverty and a cause of poverty. And that 28.7% of children with free school meals have a special need and disability. And more than half of children with behaviour difficulties or physical difficulties were living in poverty when they were 9 months old. This was a study that they did of children going all the years through. And that the families of children with special needs and disabilities are more likely to move into poverty. And when I sort of looked into this and was thinking, well, why would that happen? Why, because you have a child with special needs, are you more likely to live in poverty? And they talked about this. As a result of the stress on the family, there was an increased risk of family breakdown. There is also less likely chance of both parents being able to work if you're caring for a child with special needs and disabilities. Childcare is near impossible to find, and if you do find it, it could end up being more expensive. And the time away from work to deal and care with your child with special needs and disabilities means that you're less likely to actually advance and be able to pursue your own career. Now, all of these things need to be taken into account when we talk about funding with children with special needs and disabilities, because what this report also says is not just that children with special needs and disabilities don't achieve as well, but it looked at those interconnecting factors, and the interconnecting factors around the area where you live, the fact that you live in poverty, whether you have special needs and disabilities, and how these factors combine to give these children, these vulnerable children, the worst possible chance and the least likely ability to make progress or achieve. So when we talk about cuts to SEND and lack of funding, we have to place this in the fact and the reality that these children are already at a significant disadvantage and likely to come from poorer backgrounds. Yeah. Now, last year, the Hull head teachers wrote to the Secretary of State asking for extra money to help these children. And they failed to receive it. And the support, although it is targeted through the education, health and care plans, it is still more readily available to parents on higher income than on lower income. Now, we saw this with the Education Select Committee. Parents described this having to fight all the time to get a plan and having to go into battle and having to enter tribunals. And I have absolute respect for each and every one of them that does that. But I am also fully aware there are so many parents out there who do not understand how to fight the system. Yes. For various reasons are unable to. And then even when they get the plan, we have over 4,000 children with EHCP plans awaiting provision. Now, I was lobbied just the other week by a charity called Sense, who was talking to me about the fact that children that go to their parents that come to them, that children have been awarded a place in a placement, only to find when they've been awarded this place, they are not awarded the transport to get there. So they're unable to take up that place. Now, this charity was telling me this is happening throughout the whole of the country, and I've put in, I think, nearly 20 parliamentary questions on this issue, so we'll see all the facts when we get them back from the department about that. I mean, I've had examples here from Elizabeth, who spent over £5,000 in independent assessments. Sharon spent £7,500 on individual private assessments. And I totally understand that. Wouldn't you and I, as any parent here, do the same for our children? But we have the financial advantage to which to do it. And not all the parents of children with special needs and education out there do. Now, fewer children with special needs and disabilities are likely to report themselves as happy. And I found that really sad. Children with special needs are less likely to report that they are happy. They're more likely to report that they feel bullied. They're more likely to report that they don't feel that they have friends at school. So I ask not only to please look at redesigning the whole way special education needs and disabilities is funded, because the high needs block based on historical data and information doesn't work. And nor does this notional £6,000. That doesn't work either. It needs a fundamental rethink. But also to fundamentally rethink about how we support these children in our schools. Because it isn't just about money. I'll agree with the point the member made opposite. It is about support, though. And it is about designing the curriculum. And it is about recognising that these children, when they come to school, come from a different position and often face more disadvantages than many of the other pupils who also come to school. So I leave by this final comment, that it is far easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken adults.
Alex Talk.